Today we're going to be talking about the Moontower V2, and to me there's something special about polycarbonate keyboards. Now, the Moontower V2 is the successor to the, you guessed it, Moontower, and it's made by a company called ATXKB, which is based in Texas. And I have been in love with their keyboards since day one. I actually picked up a 512 way back when, and now I've just gotten every other iteration of their keyboard since. There are just so many aspects to the ATXKB keyboard lineup that I just absolutely love, and it helps that I really love the designer of the keyboard as well. He's been an amazing friend as well as an awesome person in the community, and I just love his work. And there has been something unique about every iteration of the keyboard since. The 512 has that beautiful brass weight on the back that has that beautiful patina. And if you guys didn't know, I just love brass weights that have character like that to it. I just love brass weights that look like they've been used. And after the release of the 512, the next one up was the Moontower. Now the Moontower was interesting because of this big stainless steel weight, which you guys can see all the reflections here in the back, as well as a crap ton of fingerprints. But the biggest change that we saw in the Moontower was it used a gummy O-ring mount, which I actually really liked over the old top mount version. And next up we have the Moontower V2, which you guys can already tell there's a big difference in the weight over here. It's no longer shiny. But I'm not gonna lie, I actually prefer this weight over the Moontower V1. However, the new Moontowers will be offered in aluminum as well, which I have not yet tried, so my review will be based off of just the polycarbonate version. But in all seriousness, I'm just a huge sucker for polycarbonate boards. I like the way they look, they have a different sound profile to them. It's hard to describe really, but it's almost softer in a way, not quite as metallic. And I also love the way that they diffuse light. It's what got me into this hobby, so it really hits that nostalgic note of what really made me fall in love with keyboards, which was the Tofu way back when, and this is just a better version of it. So let's dive into what made this keyboard really cool for me, and some things that maybe I'd change in the future, but honestly, this keyboard is just great for what it is. To get some quick notes out of the way about the Moontower V2, it's a polycarbonate board also offered in aluminum that is a 60% keyboard, and it utilizes a gummy O-ring mount as well as a daughter board. Now this review will be kind of short and sweet because there really isn't too much to go into on this keyboard because it is so simple to build. But this is just one of those keyboards that I absolutely love almost every aspect of, and I wouldn't change a single thing about it, honestly. There's not really too much that I can even touch upon that I didn't like. But let's actually quickly tear this thing down and I'll show you guys what's actually inside. Now disassembling this keyboard can be daunting at first, but I assure you guys that it's very simple. Now, because this keyboard's actually using a gummy O-ring mount system, the way to take out this PCB and plate assembly is we're going to be using a switch puller and lifting on the designated pieces of the plate over here up to loosen the assembly. And once that's done, we're going to take out our JST connector cable and we're greeted with the inside of the case. And like I said, there's just something really magical about polycarbonate. I could literally stare at this for hours and be entertained. I don't know what it is. Here we have the daughter board as well as our JST connector. Now I did lose a screw on my own accord. That is not the fault of ATXKB. I did that, whoops. But I have to give a huge shout out to ATXKB over here for something. And the shout out is I just like the length of this JST connector. We've been getting some really small connectors recently, like we saw in the Bubble 75. It had the shortest ribbon cable I've ever seen. I'll throw a clip up here in a second too. Now I did struggle with the Bubble 75's connector for about 15 to 20 minutes, and I can't imagine someone who's doing this for their first build. I can only see the panic setting in on someone's face. It definitely made me sweat a little bit. But one of the more subtle changes that we see in the Moontower V2 is this beautiful curve on the left side here, as well as the right side. It adds a bit of elegance to the case design itself and also makes picking it up a little bit easier. But here is the PCB and plate assembly, and you guys can see there is the O-ring cord sitting in between the plate and PCB. Now I did opt to use screw-in stabilizers for this, but it is suggested that you guys would use clip-in stabs just because it has a lower height of where the screw would go in, making these O-rings sit inside a little bit nicer. However, if you do end up using screw-in stabs, you will have to file down the piece where the screw goes in. That way there the O-ring fits into the PCB and plate assembly. Now that's what I opted to do here just because I didn't have anything else on hand, but I do recommend picking up the proper stabilizers for this. And that might be the only real catch with this keyboard here is the use of clip-in stabs, but I really don't mind clip-in stabilizers. I think they got a bad name for some reason and I can't figure out why. They actually perform just as well as the screw-in alternatives. But that's pretty much the keyboard over here. It's pretty simple the way that this thing works. It actually sits on these little ledges over here that you guys can see inside the case. And because it's actually friction fits in, it does provide a pretty soft typing experience and it's really quite enjoyable. Plus it has a really nice sound profile. Now assembly is pretty easy too. There is a little bit of force that needs to go in if you end up using some screw-in stabs, but I'll show you guys again how this actually goes together. And once you have your connector in, what I'm going to be doing is just tucking in the cord just a little bit and then mounting it like so, and then pressing down on the top side and allowing it to friction fit in. You can now place your spacebar back on, and voila, pretty nice keyboard. Now, while I did touch upon the typing experience with this, I'm gonna let you guys hear a sound demo and then we'll go more into details. And as you guys heard, it sounds really good. I just love the spacebar on here. It's just chef's kiss. But during the stream for this keyboard here, I did get a few questions on some alternatives if they wanted to get something similar to the Moontower. The first thing that came to mind was actually the Pinoko. Now, while this keyboard is a budget keyboard and utilizes the exact same mounting style as the Moontower V2, there are a few things about the Pinoko that just made me go, There was some blemishes on the inside of my Pinoko, and apparently that was in the variance for what the Pinokos offered. But again, this is a much cheaper keyboard, coming in at under $150. Now, the one thing about using the more premium version being the Moontower V2 is the design aesthetics are a lot nicer on it, as well as the finish. This is going to be either Cerakoted in its aluminum form or anodized, as well as a polycarbonate finish, but both are actually very pretty keyboards, and I have to admit the Pinoko hits a very, very simplistic style, which I do enjoy, but the polycarbonate finish on the Moontower is just really, really nice to look at. But what are my final thoughts of comparing the two keyboards? Honestly, this one here is a more premium version. It looks a lot nicer in my opinion, which is very subjective. But if you are looking for something that's stocked more regularly, as well as not limited release, I would honestly have to say the Pinoko is a great choice to pick up. They both feel and sound very, very good, making it a solid choice if you miss out on the Moontower V2 or any other future releases. And I honestly think this is a solid release from ATXKB. I think it far surpasses the 512 and where it came from. And to answer that question that I wanted to start asking myself during all these keyboard reviews, would I buy this keyboard if I had not been sent it to take a look at? And the answer is yes. I think the polycarbonate keyboard is just a beautiful release, as well as this just being right up my alley for typing experience and sound. I mean, just seriously look at the way this thing glows. Isn't this beautiful? But if you guys enjoy this type of content, please let me know in the comment section down below, like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.